Families desperately search for loved ones who were lost in the floods.
You know who's going to save you, especially in the immediate moments of a catastrophe snowballing downhill? You. You're going to save your family. You're going to save those children who need to be saved. Hey guys, as promised, Mike here doing a 72-hour disaster bag, otherwise known as a D-bag. So what's the difference between a D-bag and a bug-out bag? Well, there are differences. There's significant differences. One of the biggest differences is you're not bugging out from a man-made catastrophe, although it could be. You're bugging out from a disaster, a natural catastrophe that could evolve into a man-made catastrophe. So not saying we shouldn't have security, but there's a difference between bugging out because of civil unrest, a riot that bleeds off into your neighborhood, and then you have to break contact and essentially tactically maneuver, get in your rig, and get the hell out of Dodge. That is a lot different than having a bag prepped with essential life-saving equipment and gear that you're going to need to, one, displace, like remove yourself from the catastrophe. Number two, survive those precious moments right after a catastrophe happens. And number three, sustain your survivability until you get out of harm's way and get into a better situation. Because that better situation doesn't have to be like the rebuilding of your home or you even migrating back to where you came from because you decided to drive from North Carolina to Texas and hill country. You got blown out by a flood from the Guadalupe River going from 1 foot to 30 feet, and you got out of harm's way with the things you needed for 72 hours on your back. And so getting out of harm's way could mean you're sitting in a Red Cross shelter at a local high school, waiting on transportation to get you back to where you came from. Those considerations are so important to tie in the specific equipment you're going to carry and also the training that you're going to need on the specific equipment that you carry. It doesn't make sense to have all of this high-speed equipment if you don't know how to use it. But that's the fun part, because the 72-hour D-bag, no, you're a D-bag, the 72-hour D-bag is the perfect way to rehearse and practice and exercise all of these elements of preparedness with your family and recreation, which will also give you the free rehearsal to be able to be efficient at utilizing the equipment when it counts. Now, I already did a video on some after-action review of Texas, and I heard the officials say when the time is appropriate. And I get that. You're in rescue mode, you're in recovery mode. I understand that. But I also don't want public officials, which is going to happen, politicians, deflect all the blame elsewhere and not take responsibility. You know, it's a tough situation, Mike, because this type of flood happens once in a lifetime. Well, technically it doesn't because it happened in 1987. And I was born in 1980, so it can happen twice in your lifetime. My point is, if it happens once, this time in 1987, with the same circumstances in the same river, that went up to 31.5 feet, where 10 teenagers died and 33 others were injured, and you had protocols that were supposed to fix this from never happening again, then why didn't the camp counselors at Mystic, why didn't they know to evacuate immediately and seek the high ground? Why did they wait on transportation? Why didn't they move out of the buildings immediately? And sure, I get it. Stress, inexperience, fear, anxiety, a very rare storm sitting over this place. But as I outlined in that show, you could watch it. I linked it down below. But as I outlined in that episode, they knew on Wednesday it was a potential for being something catastrophic. And then on July 4th at 12:13 a.m., they put a watch and then a warning that turned into an emergency, essentially imminent danger. So what are we actually saying? If you, as the National Weather Service, disseminate life-saving emergency information on X and nobody sees it, just like if a bear poops in the woods, does it really happen? Because nobody saw it. Nobody saw your tweet at 4 a.m. So are there things that we could have done better? Yes, there are plenty of things that we could have done better. But when I say we, I mean the institutions. Let's set that aside. You know what's better than an institution doing this? You doing this. Yeah, you. Don't depend on the government because they're not going to come and save you. You know who's going to save you, especially in the immediate moments of a catastrophe snowballing downhill? You. Yeah, you. You're going to save you. You're going to save your family. You're going to save those children who need to be saved. So I'll get off my high horse, but it frustrates the hell out of me that babies died, crying for their moms and dads, screaming as a raging river swept them away. Can you imagine if you were a parent and you trusted an institution to take care of your child, and then that institution failed? We don't want to pass the buck. We don't want to point the finger. We don't want to blame anybody. I'm not saying blame anybody, because blaming somebody means you intend for there to be consequences. Consequences for their inaction. But guess what? There won't be consequences. You know why I'm frustrated? I'm not frustrated because the 18-year-old teen counselor didn't know what to do. I'm frustrated because as an institution that's responsible for caretaking children, they should have known better. The fact that the guy in charge died while trying to save children, that's very noble. You know what would have been better? Him surviving and then rescuing the children an hour prior to this happening. You know, this is a good question. Was there a plan? Was there a protocol? And was that protocol followed? I would venture to say, just on some experience in emergency management, crisis response, there likely wasn't. Did they do a rehearsal prior? Did they even have the conversation? I heard counselors that were being interviewed by the news whose girls got out of that bad situation, that did the right thing in a timely fashion, that said they didn't really know what to do. When it got bad, they started initiating movement, but it was too late. That's not acceptable to me. You have to take your survivability and that of your loved ones and that of the people around you if you're a responsible citizen, because that's how you're going to live. So that's why this is important. Let's go over it. All right, guys, let's start off with the bag. So the bag, as you down select it, there's a couple parameters. It doesn't have to be camouflage. The reason it doesn't have to be camouflage because in disaster response, they're looking for visual recognition. And if you have a camouflage bag that no one can see, well, then they can't find you. Remember, search and rescue is a significant component to disaster response, and that's why we have to pay attention to what we carry. This is an Eberl-stock bag. It does not have an aluminum frame, but it does have a rigid frame, which means it could load bear, but you're not trying to load bear a crap ton of weight. 30-ish pounds is max for the amount of weight you should carry. Because remember, you're bugging out from a disaster. You're not bugging out from man-made catastrophes. You need to be able to move, and if your bag's not the appropriate bag, meaning it doesn't load bear properly, and you're not thinking about it in ounces instead of pounds, then it's going to be too much weight, too much crap to carry. So even though this looks like a lot, when it's packed in here, which I'll weigh for you, it's minimalist. It's not a lot of equipment. Okay, so I added this bag because a wet weather bag is actually pretty heavy. This is a commercial garbage bag. It's a heavy duty garbage bag. This will be plenty for packing out all the things I need. One of the recommendations for a bag, this is an Eberl-stock bag. I don't know the specific model. I don't work with them. I actually bought this bag. But this Eberl-stock bag has external pouches for life-saving or specific gear that requires ready access. And we'll go over that when I go over the gear that you're going to put in here. But that's significant as well. You don't want a first aid kit in this bag at the bottom where you have to dump it to access it. You need it readily available and you need it now. So remember that. A good bag with a rigid type frame. It doesn't have to be an aluminum frame. It doesn't have to be a big rucksack. It could be any color scheme. And for this particular one, I down selected the Eberl-stock because it's a spare bag. I have it. And it's got external pouches. Okay, on person. Now, I added this segment for on person because a lot of people don't think about what they're going to carry in their pockets. And often your pockets aren't enough real estate to carry life-saving gear. Imagine you get out in your pajamas, because this flood that happened in Texas happened at 4 a.m. So you're getting out of bed and then immediately you're grabbing your bag, and you should have something like this that's readily accessible with the things in it. I just pulled the things out of it so you could see it, but these are the things that I'm going to put in as a minimum. So this is a backcountry carrier. I actually sell these on my Patreon. I used to make them for Fieldcraft. It has a pouch for first aid, a pouch for general purpose, a pouch underneath it for ready access to a tourniquet, a pouch for this. This is just simulating that because this is not real YouTube. A Leatherman. And then I'm going to carry this bug out. This is one of my favorite knives. I can't even use that word, but this is one of my favorite thingies. It's called the bug out. It's a great tool Small, light, it's made out of aluminum, and this is my go-to. This Gerber or my Leatherman is the perfect tool, multi-tool for dual-purpose use as well. Also, I have a Bible. This is actually my New Testament. This was carried by a veteran of World War II, and now I carry it in my pack for morale and all the things that you need to tie back into God. Important. Lastly, on the carried components, a first aid kit from Philcraft. This is a bleeding control kit. Everything I need that's in this pouch, and again, readily accessible. All right, I'm actually going to work backwards in this video, starting with the least significant and priority, but I think it's all important, working backwards to the most significant, especially in survival. So 1 pair of wool socks. I don't need multiple pairs. I just need one. A beanie, my Tomb Guard beanie. I've had that for a very long time because I'm old. An Eagles and Angels hunting hat. Why this? Well, if you're in a natural disaster and you're bugging out with your 72-hour bag, one of the things that you're going to need is some kind of signal or visual recognition. This, which is fluorescent orange, which is like VS17 panel, instead of having a panel, I could just put on a ball cap. With a panel, I have to hold it up and out constantly to let somebody know that I have it or here I am. But with this, I could put it on. If there's rescuers on the ground or above in the air, they'll be able to see this. You can't miss this. So it's just a hat from Eagles and Angels that you could put on. I use it in duck season. I have an alternate cap to keep the head warm because that's important. Even in the summertime, I have 40 to 50 degree shifts from the daytime high to the nighttime low. Covering your ears, your head, and keeping it warm via, I think this is Patagucci. That's important. I also have a rain jacket, water-resistant rain jacket, and I have some cold weather gear top and bottom. This is important because one of the priorities in natural disasters, especially that happen at night, but even in the daytime leading off into night, you need to be able to have this. All right, gloves. Look, you don't need tactical gloves. You need working gloves because you're going to be moving debris, wood, glass, and these prevent you from cutting your hands with leather on the inside, and they're also ruggedized on the outside of the knuckles to protect you from all of the obstacles you're going to face in a natural disaster. We're talking floods, hurricanes, tornadoes, a lot of debris, a lot of obstacles, a lot of dangers. Protect your hands. Next, I'm going to migrate into tools. So I have a myriad of tools. I've down selected a Baco saw. This is the Laplander. A survival Essie knife, one of my favorite knives from Essie. Has my name on it. No big deal. A synthetic hatchet. Now the reason I down selected this is because it's lighter. You get a wooden handle, old school hatchet. They're going to be pretty heavy. So this is minimalist. It's made out of steel on its head and then has a synthetic plastic handle. And these things are super rugged. I can't use my hands. Yeah, look how pretty that is. Cutting, wedging, prying, sawing, all very important survival techniques that you're going to need, especially getting through debris and potentially making a fire. That's what we're talking next. So fire. Fire is just not fire to keep your core body temperature warm. Remember, in survival, in a natural disaster, once it's safe for search and rescue to get in the air and to get on the ground, they're going to be conducting operations. So this could be signal as well, right? Green foliage in a fire, plumes of white smoke, and also at night, a heat signature if I can get this going at night. One of the considerations I had in putting this fire kit together for this particular bag is that in a natural disaster, it's typically going to be wet, unless it's an earthquake, but even then, infrastructure, lines break, it's going to be wet. So getting a fire started is going to be more difficult. That's why I did things like this, tinder and pine. That sap in that is going to allow you to start and keep a fire. A fast fire stick, that's an easy way to do it. Cheat code, survival fire starting tinder, which is really awesome. I have these fire tabs. These are really cool. You could burn these and they'll burn for a long period of time. You could break them into 4. A fire starter from Philcraft. This is one of my favorite fire starters, maybe because I made it, but it's got magnesium in it from Austria. And then it has a wooden handle because you could use the shavings from this wood as tinder to get the fire started. Let me do a little demo for you. Get a little shavings from the magnesium, and then let me go ahead and spark this ferro rod. Look at that. I mean, you could do this standing up. Nothing like testing fire over a lithium battery. Don't do this at home. All right, 2 is 1, 2 big lighters, no big deal. And then a pack to pack it all in. So I want my fire stuff isolated, water resistant pouch from Kafaru. I want it to be squared away. That's super important. Next is lighting. So I got a headlamp from Petzl, civilian type headlamp. And also I have a handheld light, okay? Spare batteries, of course. All right, water is the next priority. So in the event that you have to bug out and sustain yourself for 72 hours, you're gonna need a few things. 1, you need the ability to capture the water. That's important. I like this Grail bottle because it's the biggest version they make. This GeoPress bottle is super cool because I could contain it. So I capture it, I filtrate it by pushing the filter through the water, and that sanitizes it, and then I got good drinking water really quick. Now what I would do is I would push the top through the press and then dump this water inside of my 50-ounce bladder. That's gonna go in the top pouch of my ruck. Again, readily accessible because I wanna hydrate on the go. And this will be full inside of a pouch that's stowed. Also, when you capture the water, when you filtrate it and sanitize it, top yourself off by drinking it, and then top it back off and then contain it and put it in your bag, okay? In addition to staying hydrated, I need to get my minerals. So I use Element. It has sodium, potassium, magnesium to keep you hydrated. A must in any survival situation or just in general in life. I mean, I do one of these every single morning and I'm not sponsored. I just do it because it's good for you, right? Getting those minerals in you early is really good for you. With food, look guys, you're surviving and sustaining yourself for 72 hours. I don't need a lot of food. 2 major things that I pack is top sirloin beef, which is dehydrated meat from Carnivore. It's grass-fed and it's freaking delicious. But I'm mostly carnivore and I need the protein. You get camp food, it's crap. I know because I've eaten it for 20 years via MREs. Meals ready to eat is the worst thing you could put in your body, especially in survival mode. Since I typically am running off of ketones and ketosis because I'm not putting in a lot of carbohydrates, there's cognitive benefits to that, there's health benefits, and I want to maintain that diet even in the field, but I still need the protein. So you're looking at 100 plus grams of protein in one bag, and it's delicious. You could actually eat it raw, or you could constitute it and cook it. But this is my go-to for chow. I don't have it in here, but I will pack it out. It's my MSR stove with a stainless steel cup to cook the meat. Shameless plug, this is the only company that I'm really sponsored by. Tactical Response, it's 900 mgs of CBG per bottle. So CBGs is the cannabinoid that helps with the focus. I take 2 of these every morning. And so this is my go-to that I'm bringing it on the go. Not a lot of sugar, not a lot of calories, but that's what I want because I want pure CBG to keep my focus during this situation. Often neglected, but important, hygiene. So I got 1 bar of Ivory soap, which is pure soap. I also have wet ones, which could be used as baby wipes for you know what. And it's also good for keeping your hands, the nooks and crannies in your hands clean so you don't get cellulitis. I included in this kit a bacitration and Band-Aids kit because you're gonna need that, especially for boo-boos. Little cracks, little boo-boos turn into big boo-boos if they're not addressed. All right, so let's go into first aid. The reason this kit is so robust as a first aid trauma kit is because you're likely going to be a casualty, going to, at a minimum, encounter casualties, and you need the equipment and the training in order to address it. Oh, just to mention this, because I do want to specifically mention all of these things that I'm talking about, I educate on my platform on patreon.com/Mike Glover. I'll also include it in the pinned comment. Like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Appreciate you guys. So trauma, I need hyphen vent chest seals ×2. I have dressings, quick clot dressings that have hemostat embedded in the material to facilitate stopping the bleed. I got a Hemcon Cheeto bandage, which is just a compressed bandage with hemostat. I got an NG tube. Now, this is for clearing in the airway. Again, requires training, but I mean, not a lot of training because it's real easy to use. If you have a compromised airway, this is a good way to breach that airway to get oxygen flowing. I have a Sharpie marker. Why Sharpie? Well, it's permanent. And I can mark tourniquets and their application time, as well as mark casualties as I'm triaging them or separating them from worst to bad to okay, all right? Trauma shears, that's for cutting material. It could be clothing. It could be seat belts. It could be used for a lot of things. Make sure you have this. Nitrile gloves, have multiple pairs of nitrile gloves. Burn tech, not a lot of people pay attention to burns, but in a disaster, you're likely to see fire, electrical burns, and burn tech is important to make sure you don't get secondary infection once everything has settled down. I have a TACMed solution rigid immobilization system for extremities, dedicated for immobilizing extremities, arms, legs, and it's a lighter version than the SAM splint. I love this piece of gear. Tourniquets, I have 1, 2, 3, and then one on person immediately to stop the bleed. And then I'll have these in my pack on the outside of this pouch because I want, again, ready access to that pouch. But the reason I have 4 is because you have 4 extremities. And if you're dealing with a natural catastrophe that's impacted a lot of people, you're likely to come across people that need it. I just did the story on this young Texas father who passed away because he bled to death out of his arm after he broke the window with his fist and didn't know how to stop the bleed, nor did his family, and he paid for it. He did save his family. I'm proud of him. It's no criticism, but we need to know how to stop the bleed. It's basic stuff that gets us hurt. One thing that I need to add to this, and I need you guys' feedback in the comments, is Polis litters. Who makes the best Polis litter? Why would you carry a Polis litter? Well, if you're addressing anybody with this equipment, they're likely immobilized, they're either walking wounded or they can't move at all. If that happens, you need the ability to move them, and a Polis litter will get it done. What do I mean by that? It's a litter that you carry a casualty without the poles. And there's creative ways to carry casualties, but you have to get them to a higher level of care, and some of that equipment will facilitate that. Also got a Fieldcraft pouch that has Velcro on it to isolate some of the important equipment like the 4x4 dressings, etc. So I don't just reach inside of here and pull out a mass of contents. I want to be able to pull out a pouch and bring it to the casualty or operate out of my bag more organized. One of the most important elements in natural disasters for first aid is maintaining the core body temperature of the casualty in first aid and trauma, but also in survival. This is made by Ozark Trail. It's like the Bobo of the survival world, but this stuff works. It's super cheap. It's a Mylar space blanket taco. It's basically a rectangle, linear Mylar bivy sack and made by Ozark Trail. Again, not sponsored and don't want to be. No offense, Ozark. All right, I got 2 more sections. So communications. This combo kit is made by Radio Made Easy. It includes a Yaesu VX6, which can transmit, receive ham radio communications and on multiple bands. First responders will be communicating on this. It is an important piece of gear that you have on person with all the accessories in the bag, including cheat cards and the power supply that it demands. Communications is very important, especially when emitting your location in that worst case scenario, especially if you're lost. You shouldn't be lost because you should have this. This is a Garmin InReach Explorer and includes the SOS button. You push that and it activates SOS and geolocates your position so first responders can find you. Now, I will say this costs $14 a month. For me, it's on auto pay, and having the ability to do offline maps on a piece of equipment that doesn't depend on infrastructure is super important because this just happened in Texas. The first responders that were trying to respond initially, their radios didn't work. Why? Likely because the base relay stations, the way they were hopping their feed, extending their range, were broken, destroyed by the storm. So they didn't have the ability to transmit or receive. And so having this for search and rescue to come find you, super important. Also, you'll never get lost with this. Now, I recommend having a compass, a standalone compass, but as my backup, I have a Garmin Fenix 7X. I think they're out with the 8X now, but this is a sapphire solar, so it uses the sun to recharge it and has a compass and the ability to map track as well. All right, last but not least, the Starbat. Now, what's a Starbat? Well, this is just a lithium battery setup to power the Magic, which is the Starlink Mini. The Starlink Mini is tied into the top of this case. You run a plug and you push that button and you have power for 24 hours. You can also power everything else. Now, I know what you're thinking because I'm thinking the same thing as I say it. you would never pack this out. I don't expect you to pack this out. But what I expect, just as the first responders have this option now, because emergency responders get on the ground, they got Starlinks hooked up, and then they got connectivity. You need to have this somewhere. Have it in your RV, your rig, have it at the house, wherever you're at. Hell, even carry it. I mean, they should probably come up with a design to be able to carry this more robustly. That would actually be really cool. Or just stuff it in a big ruck. But I would even think about carrying this out because I want to have communications where I'm going. Now, you could reduce the overall signature with this by just running this mini, which this is the antenna and the Wi-Fi router at the same time. It's all built into the Starlink Mini. Having a power supply for this is imperative. This just happens to be the Starbat version. I do have a link for this because I do get an affiliate kickback if you buy this, and I could save you $100 on this expensive because it's a lithium battery that has cooling fans, but it's worth the investment. It's ruggedized, it's weatherproof, and it transmits through the deck lid of this so you don't even have to take it out. In addition to that, they do have solar accessories that could trickle charge this in that worst case scenario as well, at a minimum for your bug out rig. All right, guys, here's a couple things. One, 70% of everything I just showed you is going to be based on the staples of survival, first aid, food, water, etc. That doesn't change. It's the staples. But about 30% of this is based on environmental factors. What would you add if you had to add 3 things to this kit, either in the staples, the 70%, or the 30% of the environmental factors based on where you live? What would you add to this kit? Make sure you leave me the feedback in the comments down below. I appreciate you guys. I'm headed off to Patreon to teach specific blocks on this. You guys could subscribe to my Patreon. It's absolutely free. Or you can get behind the paywall and get specific education on all things preparedness. Till next time, I appreciate you guys. Peace out.